Shalom. First and foremost, Kwahala, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua Bashem Kwakadash, the blondest head apostles of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the Yakim out there in the highways and byways, its north and the shred abroad, all around the world through the spirit and power of our Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. So I want to get into this. It's talking about the king's meal, the king's meat, actually. You know, here it is. You just had this thing that went on probably like a day ago or so, where here it was that you had these major franchise restaurants such as McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, that were selling cheeseburgers for about 50 cents. Now you gotta ask yourself the question, why would they be selling, cheeseburgers or making, cheeseburgers that cheap? But here it is. I have an article right here. While people were distracted by, how cheap these burgers were, but here, beneath the surface, you got, an article like this. It says over 58,000 pounds of raw ground beef recalled in multiple states. You see? So here it is. You got the raw ground beef recalled in multiple states. It says underneath, it says 3 products of American food groups have possible E. coli contamination. So here it is. This meat is contaminated with E. coli. And that's a very serious toxin, but yet here it is, they're selling these burgers at about, 50 cents. And, Jake ain't just gonna buy just one burger if it's that cheap, Jake is buying like multiple burgers, like at least like 5 or 10 of them joints right there. You could buy like at least 5 or 10 of them joints for about $5. You could get 10 burgers for about $5. But what Jake don't realize is that, this is not real food. Like the meat is damn near, defiled, with poison, And here you have it was, Jake was talking about, how he ate them 50-cent burgers and, he was shitting up a storm for about 2 hours. But that's all the poison and contamination of that meat. And, this article right here, it's going to go into it, which is scary. So this is, real quick, I'm going to jump into this. So the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced a recall of approximately 58,281 pounds of raw ground beef due to a possible E. coli contamination. The food group and business operators Green Bay Dress Beef announced a recall Friday after a sample collected by a state public health official notified the USDA, Food Safety and Inspection Service, that some products may be contaminated with cytotoxin producing E. coli, STEC. The recalled products include three Pacific 10 pounds plastic tubes known as cubs. The raw ground beef items produced on August 14th, 2023 have an established number of estimated 18076 inside the USDA mark of inspection. 3 products are subject to the recall. and approximately 80 pounds cases containing 10 pounds of plastic tubes. You see, look at that. They're putting plastic into the food here, defiling the food. You know, it's no wonder why Jake is all sick and fucked up. You know, and it's mainly Jake, you know, that fall for the okie doke. You know, it's mainly them that's high in these numbers of sickness. Salakia. You know, in approximately 80 cases containing 10 pounds of plastic tubes and all of this. The now recalled food items have been shipped and distributed in Georgia, Michigan, and Ohio. The USDA said there have been no confirmed reports of adverse reactions due to the consumption of these products. You know, a representative of the American Food Group did not immediately respond to ABC News' request of additional comments. You know, but this is, you know, Esau, you know, he's just a devil, you know, at the end of the day. Because here it is, this thing is all contaminated, but he will still sell it, you know. He'll still sell the shit to the people to consume this junk, you know. And it's in your foods, your McDonald's and all of that, you know. But Esau will still make a profit off of your sickness, you know. Showing you that Esau don't give a fuck. You know, he's just on the rampage, you know. Just doing whatever the hell he wants. You know. But real quick, let me just get into this part of the article, then I'm gonna go into the scriptures. The USDA said many clinic laboratories do not test for non-OS. You see, they don't even test for this shit. You know, they don't even do tests because it's harder to identify. You know, non-test for non-0157 STEC because it's harder to identify than the STEC. Distributors and customers who may have purchased these products are urged by the USDA not to use them or distribute them further. The product should be thrown away or returned to the place of purchase, the agency states. It says people could become ill 1 to 10 days after consuming the STEC bacteria. Symptoms of E. coli bacteria including vomiting or diarrhea, sometimes bloody. The worsens over several days, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Most people recover within a week. Some may develop a more severe infection. But you see, here it is. This is just one reason why you got to stay away from the king's meat, you know, because it's defiled. And, you know, Jake just loves meat completely, you know. And, you know, we all do, you know. We all love meat, you know. I myself, I love meat. I like meat. But the thing is, you know, we can't be too greedy over this meat. Because, you know, you get sick. Like that Jake was just talking about how he had them 50-cent double cheeseburgers and he was shitting up a storm for like 2 hours. You know, that's diarrhea right there. So here it is, you're having Jake, you know, people getting sick off of this thing. This 50-cent, you know, burgers that Esau is pushing. You know, calling it National Cheeseburger Day. But it's all to make you sick, you know. But, you know, we are that are in the know. We know that we're not ignorant of Satan's devices, because that's one of Satan's devices, is to make us sick, you know. So at least he get advantage of us. We're not ignorant of his devices because he owns these pretty much he owns these factories where our food comes from. You know, he owns the producing of where our food comes from. He owns these factories where our food is mass produced and come from. So we have no control over that due to the curses of Deuteronomy the 28th chapter. You know, where we would serve our enemies in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and want of all things. So we gotta go to this devil for our food, you know, and that's one thing we gotta go to this devil for. You know, we gotta go to this devil for our food to eat. You know, we don't have farms or anything that we have, you know, cows, chickens, you know, these things where we can produce our own food. You know, Esau, he has control over these things, the resources, because this is his kingdom. And here the scriptures talk about, you know, we are not to be greedy over meats. Actually, let me get that here. So this is the book of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 37, verse 29. And it says, be not unstable in any dainty things, nor too greedy upon meats. For excessive of meats bringeth sickness, and Sephain will turn into choler. You see? So, you know, this is what it brings, you know. Excessive of meats bringeth sickness. So if you're constantly eating this thing every day, you know, every hour, you know, the day, you know, you're gonna get sick. Especially, you know, how these foods are contaminated. These meats that we're eating is contaminated, you know. So brothers try to, you know, do their best to try to stay away from these things, you know, these meats, you know, because it's all poison. You know, just like Daniel, you know. Not to say, you know, you're not, you know, you don't want to have, you know, a steak or whatever, you know, here and there, but, you know, try your best to stay away from it as possible, you know. I myself, you know, I'm trying to refrain for eating these meats and, you know, eating too much meat, you know. And for a while now, I've been doing a lot of fasting and things like that, you know, one meal a day, you know, and to be honest, you know, it's working. You know, I feel much better than I did before, you know, eating 3 meals a day and shit, you know. You know, we're not ought to be eating, you know, 3 meals a day or whatever, because that's only just gonna back your system up, you know. That's all. You're just gonna be more constipated, and you know. So let's not follow the ways of Esau, because now that we got this knowledge, we got this truth, you know. We're not ignorant of Satan's devices, you know. Just like Daniel. Let me get that real quick. So this is the book of Daniel, chapter 1. This is the book of Daniel, chapter 1, verse 8. I'm going to start at 8. Actually, let me start at 5. So this is the book of Daniel, chapter 1, verse 5. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drunk, so nourishing them 3 years. That at the end of that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, upon whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of Belanazar, and Hananias, and Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and Azariah of Abednego. You know. But Daniel posed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drunk therefore. He requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now the Most High had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs, and that the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, whom have appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your face worse likened than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make an endanger my head to the king. So then said Daniel to Melazar, whom the prince of the eunuch had set over Daniel, Hananias, Mishael, and Azariah. It says, prove the servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us plus, to eat and water to drink. Then let our countenance be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat, and as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So here it is. Them, they're making an agreement. They said, okay, let us eat the food of the earth, and the others eat of the king's meat, and to see the countenance, to see the difference. And at the end of the 10 days, their countenance appeared fairer and flatterer in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. So they were more wiser, they were more fairer, so than the children that ate of the king's meat. Thus Melazar took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they shouldn't drink, and gave them plus. As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skills in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. You see? So by them not eating the king's meat, the 4 children, the Most High gave them more wisdom, more knowledge. They became more skilled than those that ate the king's meat. So this is why it's more important. It's important to stay away from these foods, because they're just killing you. Now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar, and the kings communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood there before the king, and in all matters of wisdom, understanding, that the king inquired of them, and he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all the realm. So They were more wiser and more smarter, than, the king's magicians and astrologers, you know, because they didn't want that defiled meat. They weren't trying to eat the food of the king's meat, you know. So they ate food, that came from the earth. So this is how they became more skilled and more knowledgeable in all their dreams, because the Most High was with them. You see, the Most High will be more with you once you stay away from these foods, because they're all poison, you know. So, you know, I just wanted to bring that out, and this is just proof right here. So stay away from the king's meat, at the end of the day, because it's all poison, it's all defiled. And this is why, Esau is constantly pushing this on our people continually, and it's for a reason, and that's to keep us away, from our Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. So, this devil, he's wiser than Daniel. He knows this because he searched out the scriptures. This is why, we as men of the Lord, we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. So real quick, let me get that. So 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11, it reads, "Lest Satan shall get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices." And that's one of Satan's devices, is to contaminate and defile the food that we eat, So this is why it's best that we, for brothers, practice, trying to refrain from as much meat as you can, from the king's meat, as much as you can, try to, practice in it, because once you practice in it, because, the saying goes, practice makes perfect. Once you continue to practice in it, to refrain from that garbage, refrain from all that bullshit, then you become good at it, and it becomes second nature to you, because we already know that all this food and all this madness is all defiled by this devil, So with that, I'm going to give all praises and glories due to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Ba'ashem Akwakadash, Shalom.